love elephants, it sounds like Aubrey and myself are the only two people exploring Djuma and surroundings. Aubrey can traverse a lot more area than we can, and I think he's actually in Buffelshoek, so there's essentially nobody driving around Djuma except for us. And because Jamie is on foot, that means I want to try and cover as much ground. Oh, quickly, there's a Jacobin's cuckoo on the road. We don't see them often. Awesome, look at this. This is going to be the best view I've ever showed you of a Jacobin's cuckoo. And who knows, maybe it's a youngster that was already born this season. And I can distinguish the Jacobin's cuckoo from the Lavallian's cuckoo or striped cuckoo. They look very similar, other than the fact that the Jacobin's cuckoo here has a white breast, whereas the Lavallian's or striped cuckoo has a striped breast. Now, I've forgotten which animals these will brood parasites, so which animal, or which birds rather, which animals they will specifically seek out in order to lay their eggs in their nest and get another bird to raise their young, which is what could have happened here. And this could be a youngster already raised this season. But isn't it fascinating that some birds are clever enough to get other birds to do the dirty work and raise their young for them? No more sign of it, but I've just pulled out my bird app, and they usually parasitize bulbuls. Where's it gone? Still in there somewhere. Looks like it's hunting in there. Oh, what have you found in there to snack on? There we go, it's swallowing something. So it's usually parasitizes common bulbuls, which we don't see too often here, or the common fiscal, also known as a fiscal shrike. So those are the two birds that they'll usually parasitize. And isn't it fascinating that various cuckoos will parasitize specific species of birds? I think the Lavallian's cuckoo is the one that looks similar to this, that will parasitize the starlings in this area. See if we can't get you a few more views, but this one seems quite relaxed. Maybe we'll get to see it. This is remarkable. I cannot believe it's sitting so close to us. Usually I think it's because they're ashamed of their bad tactics of offloading their young to unsuspecting parents who then have to raise them. And maybe because this one is young, it doesn't realize what a sinister maneuver it's going to perform in the future. Clever though. Maybe it's got something to do with the moisture and the fact that it's so bedraggled and wet after a night out in the storm that it doesn't care about its reputation anymore and doesn't care that it's out in the open for us. So either that, or it's a youngster. Okay, well, like I said, it's time to keep exploring Djuma to try and make sure we are on the pulse with what's going on out here on our property, and also to make sure that we have got a good session possibly lined up for the sunset safari a little bit later on. So I'm going to keep exploring, and we're going to send you to Jamie.
And look what we had to find here. This is so cool. I don't know what it is. Again, it's one of those mystery things. Hopefully he stays. Look. Oh. Again, launching himself off, demonstrating that incredible ability to jump up and disappear. I'm going to leave him be. I don't want to stress him out, because this is more exciting than anything that's happened on Bushwalk so far. Lilac-breasted roller feather. So for those of you who started watching when I first started working here, we had this argument. James and myself had this argument. So I borrowed Nikki Austin's hat. Mine disappeared. It took an unplanned trip with Brent to Zambia. And James has had this old agreement with some friend of his. I can't remember the exact details, to be honest. He had this agreement with a friend that he would find them a lilac-breasted roller feather, and in return would be given some great gift. And now James is a coffee connoisseur. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with James, he is one of the other presenters. He's on leave at the moment, but he'll be back very, very soon. and he had this agreement with a friend that his friend would bring back coffee for him, some special exotic coffee. And Nikki's hat that I'd borrowed happened to have some lilac-breasted roller feathers, at which point James Henry put out this heinous tale that I had stolen his lilac-breasted roller feathers and that I had to give them back, which of course I couldn't because they were Nikki's. Well, James, who's laughing now? I found one before you did.
I think those were viewers from Hawaii. They wanted
viewers from Hawaii. Is that who it was? Oh,
the thing, and then they would give the coffee from Hawaii.
That's the story.
That's what it was.
Ah, now do I get the coffee instead? Well, if you were the viewer that offered James the coffee for the lilac-breasted roller feather, I feel like I should be rewarded here. But just look at this beautiful colouring. It's incredible. That is bright blue, and I'm fairly certain that this will be a lilac-breasted roller feather. Now the question is, it's windy. Where on earth am I going to put it? I think perhaps this might be the best solution. Is that going to work? Is that going to stay? Fingers crossed. We're not going to lose that. By the way, while we've been doing this, there's a herd of zebra that's just watching our shenanigans, wondering what on earth we are doing. It's the herd that we very often see on quarantine. It's actually quite a big herd. They know we're here, and I'm not going to try and get too much closer to them, just because, as I said, it's windy. Don't want to stress any of the animals out. But if we go over here, I'm going to go sneak behind the bushes and try and have a look at them. Ah, no, I'm going to move off. There's a baby there. Hello. Yes, we see you. We're not going to try and approach you. Now, walking straight on in a direct line as I'm doing, if I start walking towards them any closer, they're going to run away. Usually your best approach with animals, if you are going to approach like that, is to try and take it at an angle, so it doesn't feel to them like you're coming straight for them. You might just be going past them. Hello, zebbies. Good morning. Have you had a scary night last night, especially the little one, with the clouds rolling in and hiding all of the ambient light, and then of course all of the wind robbing them of their senses? It actually must be really, really scary to be a zebra out here. Ooh, I'm surprisingly cold. I know I shouldn't complain, and I know that a lot of you are experiencing the current blizzards and snows, but for me this temperature is positively Arctic. Just trying to find some more wonderfully interesting things to show you. Let's go look for some marulas and elephant dung. And I'm still looking for any sign of marula fruit in elephant dung, but while I do, Velma and many others, you were saying that my necklace is awesome. Thank you. You wanted to know if it was nyummy nyummy? Yes, it is. It was in fact a gift from Brent on his last trip to Zimbabwe, and he brought it back. And funnily enough, Yummy Yummy used to be my nickname when I worked at the other reserve before I met the Wild Earth crew. So it was funny, he didn't know that, he just happened to buy it. But Nyami Nyami, the river god, that guards all of the various rivers around that area. So yes, that is exactly what it is. So I know that you were saying it looks similar to what you have. And just before we finish up, thank you everyone for sending through your information about the millipedes laying eggs. I've learned something new today. That's why I love going out on bushwalk. And while I carry on, making my way to somewhere that I spotted while I was on drive a couple of days ago but haven't had a chance to explore, I believe that Scotty has found some leopard tracks to show you.
So, we have finally found some tracks. They are of a female leopard pointing towards us. No claw marks on the track, and that's indicative of a cat as opposed to a dog or a hyena. Sadly though, we are on our northern boundary, And the direction that this leopard has been moving in is north, directly across the road. And I've circled the tracks so that other people can continue following up to the north, but we cannot. And at least the animals have got free rein over this area, but sadly we don't, and we just have to drive on now and erase the fact that we have tracks. Anyway, useful to know that there was a leopard waltzing around Djuma. I wonder who it is. This area, it could be Karula, and the territory is forever shifting and changing. And because we don't keep as close a tabs as we would like on her, not too sure exactly her parameters and boundaries. Also the fact that we can't go into the properties adjacent to us, to the north of us, to the east of us, where she goes. We don't know how far her territory spreads exactly. But at least we've given the other guys a clue as to where they should follow up, and hopefully they'll return us a favor like that, saying that there's some other tracks coming into Djuma that we can then follow up on. This might be quite interesting. I think we might be able to find the chameleon in the same tree that we found one in yesterday. Well done to Sarah in Ohio, who has just got her grades back from a project that she did on the Inkohuma Pride. She did a lot of research on the Pride, both reading up on their history and also watching many drives where we viewed them. And she got an A, and not only did she get an A, but she did such a good job that her teachers are now going to start watching and joining in on Safari Live. So thank you, Sarah, and we can't stress enough how important it is that we need all of your help spreading the word about these live safaris. The more people that join in, the more fun we can have, the more toys we can buy, the more places we can take you. Now, this is the tree that we saw the chameleon climbing into yesterday, the one on the right here. I'm just going to hop out quickly and see if it's not still in here. I'm guessing that it could be because it's it's cold, so it's unlikely that it would have moved, and B, it hasn't been a lot of time of daylight, and we left it quite late yesterday evening. And even in a small bush like this, you do need to make certain that you're not overlooking anything, because their camouflage is incredible. But I'm fairly confident that it is not here. So that I'm quite surprised by. I thought it would have been here still. I'm just going to make sure it's not walking around here on the move. Interesting. Oh, I was feeling lucky there, feeling hopeful. It came from the tree on the other side here yesterday and crossed the road in front of us, for those of you who weren't with us. So I'm just going to check carefully. It may have returned to the tree that it was in. They do actually hang out in set areas for maybe a week or so at a time. They will often even sleep in the exact same position in a tree every night. And I know that because I've taken huge interest in chameleons, and obviously driving around here day in and day out, you get to know these strange habits of the animals, even to the degree where every night you drive home you can see a chameleon sleeping in the same spot in a tree. So that's why I thought it was going to be worthwhile checking here quickly. But no joy.
I think he says there's a grasshopper somewhere.
A grasshopper?
Yeah.
Okay, so there was a grasshopper. Oh, there it is. It's the same elegant grasshopper that you saw with Jamie earlier. Here. Yeah. They are so beautiful. Orange, black, white, 3, yellow, 4, green, 5, a hint of blue, 6, reddish eyes and pink on the back, so we'll make that 7. 7 colors. Very good. Interestingly, the chameleon that climbed into the other tree on the other side of the road yesterday, it went straight past one of those little grasshoppers, and I think it's because of their bright coloration and also the fact that they feed on plants that make them nauseous. I'm sure Jamie told you about this. They exude a yellow liquid that is very distasteful and unpleasant, and that is what probably caused the chameleon to decide against feeding on that specific grasshopper, but they will definitely feed on the other grasshoppers of this area, the less brightly colored ones. Okay, Jamie's found you some more little critters on the bushwalk, so you're going to be back on ground level with her right now.
Now, it wasn't really my intention to do a snail-themed walk, certainly not what I expected when I first set out. But I just had to show you these snails because they're absolutely incredible. I had no idea they existed, and I have no idea what they are. But they are absolutely fascinating. So this one, the way that it's curled up, you can actually see the hard cover on the end of the foot there. So where it retracts into the shell, that's actually quite a solid casing. I had no idea that such a thing could exist. It's almost like the snail has evolved to retract, and then rather than have that soft, squishy, exposed part, it obviously would be easy for a bird to flip a snail over and then attack the vulnerable bit. It's actually got a essentially protected, it's almost like a hinge tortoise in its own way. Absolutely fascinating. And what's even more fascinating is that there's not just 2 of them, there's actually 3, all of the same species. If we have a look at this one's actually outside. How well we can get to see it. It's a very tricky, oh sorry Andrew, very tricky angle. Andrew and I navigating the restrictions of the bushpack. There you go, you can see it's sort of out of its shell. And while we watch it, Sunshine Jenkins, you were wondering how you can tell the difference between males and females. Now I know with giant land snails, they are essentially both. So the individual carries both male organs, reproductive organs, and female reproductive organs. And that's because when you're a giant land snail, moving at the pace that they move at in this wonderful world of ours, you actually have to be relatively flexible in the way that you move. So if you happen to get lucky enough to encounter somebody else with the same species, then you don't want to waste that opportunity. And so they've evolved a way of fertilizing each other and making sure that both walk away fertilized and being able to produce offspring. Whether or not that works the same way for all species of snail, I actually honestly don't know. I really don't know. In terms of telling the difference between male and females, I don't think there is a way unless you have a look at their genetics. So for giant land snails at least, I know that they carry both male and female reproductive parts. So you can't tell the difference because they're both. There's one other thing, speaking about arthropod and various other animals' reproduction. Where did it go? I did spot a reproductive termite. What have you got there, Andrew? Oh, the zebbies. Just keeping a close eye on us. Where did that termite go? Let me see if I can find it while Andrew shows you that incredible, what looks like an old cocoon. Look at the intricacy, while you look at that, the intricacy of the shape. There we go. I've actually found it, sorry. Here it is. Now what he's doing, if we keep watching the way that it moves, they have very limited time where their wings actually function. So while it's lifting its abdomen up like that, come on, do it again, buddy. You're not going to attract a mate if you don't show some dedication. There you go. Spraying pheromones up into the air as a way of essentially calling another flying ant or another termite to it to reproduce. And then those two will go and start their own termite colony. How cool is that? Now, I don't know how lucky this one's going to be. We're pretty far away from any other reproductive termites that I've seen. Don't see any others around. And they're actually quite limited in the distance that they can travel. Oopsie. And Bob, you were wondering whether or what different mammal species might eat a termite like this. Bob, there's lots of them. Aardvark will, as well as pangolin, although pangolin tend to favor certain species of ant more than that. If we were lucky enough to get to see an aardwolf, then that might be an animal that would eat them. Bat-eared foxes definitely would in this particular area. That being said, almost everything will try and snack on a termite if it has an opportunity. Almost every animal, not for example the herbivores, but something like, for example, let's say a bird of prey, they often hover around termite mounds where there's explosions happening. Any of the rollers, any of the bird species that eat insects, hornbills will eat them. And then things like baboons, monkeys might snack on them. They're very, very rich in protein. It's a great meal. If you ever find yourself stuck in the bush and desperate for survival, you can actually eat them as well. They carry quite a high protein content. However, eat them sparingly because they have been known to cause upset stomachs. And if you do find yourself having to rely upon, for some unknown reason, a diet of termites, you might want to counteract it with a leaf from, should be one here, we're right in a drainage line, well done Andrew, a leaf from a silver cluster leaf tree. So something along the lines of this little tree. There's a couple of big ones, and I'll show you a big one when we get to the spot I'm going to. But the silver cluster leaf, I've just got a message through from Final Control telling me not to fall over if I have to try and pluck a leaf. And those of you who were watching will get the joke, because it was a silver cluster leaf tree that I was pulling out of the road. So what you can do is, if you find yourself with an upset stomach from eating some of those termites, you want to eat a silver cluster leaf. Just one or two. You don't want to overdo things. Trust me, you won't want to eat more than one or two. Then nibble on them as a way of, gross. I don't even have any water on me. Oh, that was a silly idea. They're very astringent. So they're very astringent. So they take away all of your spit from your mouth. I regret that decision. I regret it wholeheartedly. But there you go. Survival. Survival tactics in the bush. Now, I don't want to stand on our poor, desperately... This is like, I'm trying to think what it's like, this poor termite. Like some kind of dating website. Desperately single termite seeks companion to start to have millions and millions of children with.
Looking for love in all the wrong places.
Looking for love in all the wrong places, Andrew says. That's so sad. Desperately sending out all the right signals and not getting any response. Oh dear. It's all about location, dear. It's all about location. You've picked the wrong one. The wrong neighborhood. Nice thing is that these zebra are so comfortable with us. They've got so used to us wandering through. And they've actually come closer towards us. And they're now just standing together feeding. Hey, Zebbies? Eels. That's actually the reason I'm saying it's so nice to be at this distance and to see them so relaxed. Is for new viewers, when you're out on foot and you are looking for or looking at animals, they respond very differently to the human bipedal upright stance, so the way that we walk and the posture that we present to them. And 99.9% of the time, their response to that is actually fear. They've had hundreds of thousands of years of evolution that have told them that a human being means a hunting threat. So it's much like they would respond to a leopard or a lion. Trying to give them a little bit of personal space. And whilst I let this adorable little baby zebra relax a little bit in our presence, I don't want to scare him too much. Christopher was saying that that he knows that I have a fondness for all animals, but you're wondering if there's any animal in particular that I don't have a huge fondness for. And Christopher? I'm trying to think. I've already told you about the centipedes. Centipedes and I don't get on. It's one of those things I have tried. I need to change my way of thinking. I need to maybe learn more about them. Would be a good start in learning to love them. And then other animals that I'm not fond of, I'm not as fond of primates as I am of other animals. So baboons and monkeys, I don't share quite the same attraction to, and I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's the level of anthropomorphism. I still like them. I just don't feel the same way that I do about other animals. Okie dokie. Well, I'm going to carry on to my final place that I want to explore. In the meantime, let's see what Scott's been up to.
Well, for what it's worth, I don't like mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are probably my worst animal out here. I feel that they are incredibly rude, they are thieves, they steal our blood and leave you with an itchy reminder that they were there committing the crime. So that's probably my worst animal out here. The rest I'm quite happy with. And there we go, Chris in Arizona. I've got my worst animal that I can think of for now. Possibly another one or two that I can think of. But for now it's the mosquito that comes to mind. So we are continuing the Djuma border patrol in the hope that we'll find some evidence of animals moving into Djuma. That's not to say that there already aren't animals lurking around there, but I like to start on the outside and then work our way in. At least this way now for this afternoon safari, and this is essentially what we're laying at. We're laying a foundation on the morning safari for the afternoon safari. I want to cover all the boundaries, make sure we know what's left, what's come onto the property, and then in the afternoon at least we've got a kind of better idea of what to expect or where to go searching for anything. Of course, the problem with this plan, it's flawed, because animals like leopard especially, possibly lion on a cool day like this, will move during the course of the day. So even though that leopard, whose tracks we found earlier crossing out of the property, she could well come back during the course of the day. But at least again we do know where the last movements were. The question you ask is an interesting one. You'd like to know which question has stood out the most since being a presenter here on Safari Live, and to be completely honest, nothing really comes to mind. It's just a huge mash of many questions. And I guess it's kind of like the genres of what is your most exciting question. There's so many different levels of excitement. It can be joy of seeing an animal for the first time, or excitement because you're fearing for your life. But Ginny, I simply cannot answer your question. Not one question does come to mind. What is wonderful though, and what kind of stems off your question, is that the amount of questions from people around the world at various different ages all combine in a wonderful experience for everyone involved, including myself. Because unlike having 6 guests on your vehicle for 3 days, and then they leave, and then the next bunch jump on for 3 days, and then they leave, you don't really get to know one another. You can only go so deep into the questions, or generally the questions are only so informed, and because most of the time, especially in this area and these lodges that cater for mainly for overseas guests, not South Africans, you're dealing with quite a simple safari goer, and it's nobody's fault. It's just the fact that it's their first time, therefore they don't really know anything. So the questions you're answering are quite elementary and basic. Whereas your guys' questions, especially the seasoned safari goers, and quite often the younger viewers, ask very good questions, because they're simple and to the point. It makes for a great experience, like I said, not only for me, but also for everyone involved in the safari. It's not to take away anything from the first-timers, and please keep sending your questions through, because having that mix of in-depth questions and more basic questions makes our lives a lot more interesting than, I feel, other safari guides who are taking regular guests around. So there we go. I didn't really answer your question, but that's what I've got for you, Ginny. Zelda on YouTube, you'd like to know if when I am not working I could take you and some of your friends out on safari, and essentially yes, I could. There's somebody coming past heading to their lodge. Oh, it's Shanae. Hello Shanae, how you doing? Good. A lot of you actually know Shanae, so you can show Shanae. Tabs, how you doing? Cool. It's been a quiet morning, but now that I've seen you, it's been brightened up. Okay. Cool, thanks Shanae. Have a good day. We'll see you soon. Bye. So Shanae, interestingly enough, is from New Zealand, and she was one of our avid safari followers. And she has now decided to live a life out in Africa, and is busy completing some training at Nkoro, a lodge very close to us. And a lot of you will know Shanae from the Twitter feeds and all the chats that you guys get involved in. So we'd be happy to see her in her new African environment. What was I saying? Where was I going? Yes, Zelda. We technically can take you on a safari between our work with Safari Life, so pop me a message on Facebook and we can maybe have a Skype call and discuss exactly what you would like to do. Because we are all looking to try and make a little bit of extra money and keep busy, and this is a good way for us to do that, and a great way for us to take you on a safari in the flesh. And it's something we are trying to kind of fine-tune and work out. All of the presenters are interested in getting involved in it, and we're busy just obviously fine-tuning the plans with the powers that be, just so that we don't step on anyone's toes. But we're not going to go into the politics of that now, but feel free to pop me a message on Facebook, Zelda, and we can take it from there. Again, not hugely easy to see, especially in this flat light, but you can possibly see at the terminal edges of the toes, which is on the other end of these tracks, you may see a few kind of scuff marks where the nails have kicked up some dirt. Also difficult to see here, but the hyenas will only have 2 lobes on their back pad as opposed to 3, like the cats. Well done to Marilyn, who's just racked up her 101st bird, along with pictures of all of them on her bird list, with the Jacobin's cuckoo. So I'm glad I could be of assistance, racking up one more bird for you. And hopefully it won't be too long before we find you 102. Maybe it will happen around the next corner. Now I'm so focused on any little fluttering bird I see, hoping that I can help you. I wonder what's going on in that dead tree over there, full of vultures. Again, sadly, we cannot go any closer to investigate. But there could be a reason for those vultures being there. Maybe there's a lion kill or a leopard kill. No guarantees though, and it could simply be that they're overnighting there. They do need to sleep somewhere, of course, and there's not always going to be meat below them. Either way, this will be an unsolved mystery. But always nice to see some vultures perched in their stereotypical dead tree spots. Okay, it looks like Jamie's managed to catch up with the zebra on quarantine again. So off you go.
And what's actually been really nice about the zebra, hello guys, is while we've been wandering around them, we've just been trying to get around them to try and get to the other side, they've actually let us approach really nice and closely. But it actually gives us a really good opportunity to just chat a little bit about all of the animals' different zones, that they react differently when you enter into them. So at the moment, we are right on the edge of the zebra's comfort zone and their alert zone. So they're giving us 2 different reactions. Most of the time they're feeding, and quite comfortably feeding, but every now and again they're looking up to keep an eye on what we're doing. So those are sort of the first 2 zones as you enter an animal's personal space. In the comfort zone, they're perfectly relaxed. They're doing what they naturally do and they're ignoring you. In the alert zone, they're watching you, they're keeping an eye on what you're doing. And they're just making sure, sometimes displaying the odd sort of discomfort sign, might be shifting from side to side. Then, if we were to go a little bit closer, in this case, what they would do because they're zebra, oh look at this, having a fight here. It's interesting. Oh, biting. Went to protect the foal. Shame. This is where the darker nature of zebra comes in. Gave a good kick. Trying to protect her foal. Hey guys, what was that all about? That was a squabble between females. And one of the females went for the foal, and we don't always know why they do that. It happens with both females and with male zebra. And they go as if to attack the foal, and the female, the mother of the foal, went forward to protect it. We don't always know exactly what it is that causes that, but we do know that zebra are incredibly aggressive creatures, or they can be surprisingly aggressive creatures. That is fascinating. Shame in that one. Did you see how that bite actually grabbed the back of the neck? Did you manage to get that, Andrew?
Yeah, looked quite sore.
It looked very painful. So zebra have those fierce, sharp incisors that are, and very powerful jaw muscles. Those of you, as I always say, those of you who've been bitten by a horse will be incredibly familiar with that particular feeling. Zebra are even more so, because those teeth are used for survival in this kind of wild. But often they're used in sorting out skirmishes between the different herd members. And it's not uncommon for zebra mares to fight each other, either for the attention of the male or just because they actually don't like each other. Because within a harem, within a zebra's harem, most of the females are not related to each other in any way. So their interests are invested in themselves and their offspring, and not the good of the herd. Unlike something like an elephant, for example, you were with them with Scott earlier. With the elephants, they are more sort of geared towards the whole family protecting the group. Same with lion prides, everybody's related. With the zebra, the stallion collects the females from different areas at different times, and it means that they don't always get on. So when you see a zebra with a missing tail, quite often that's caused by one of those fights. In that case, the zebra actually grabbed the back of the female's head and held it down. What a powerful female. Obviously, maybe one of the more dominant. Usually the first mare that the stallion collects is the most dominant, and after that it sort of goes down lower in rank. And quite often the stallion intervenes in those squabbles between his females, but really interesting to actually see. Now, one more fascinating thing to show you is this little fruit chafer. Again, bushwalk testing my knowledge of the different insect species out here. I have no idea what it is. Looks like a harlequin fruit chafer, but it's not quite right.
You know something about it, though.
I do know something about it. It does have a very nice pair of red dots on its head.
You're supposed to say it's beautiful.
It is beautiful. It is beautiful. It looks a little bit like a dice in reverse. Well, that was fascinating, and well done for Andrew, for capturing quite an unexpected moment in the life of the zebra. I don't know what that was all about, but it's done now, and they've moved off into the drainage line, which leaves us free to go and get to my final destination that I have intended for this walk. In the meantime, let's get an update from Scott.
So, no major updates, but it's great to have you back on the vehicle. Isn't it wonderful that you can have the benefits of both worlds, chopping and changing between bushwalk and the vehicle? There are huge benefits to each of the two methods of exploring this wilderness area. And if I could choose, I would do a bushwalk most mornings and a drive most evenings in an ideal world. To Anna Marie, we would like to know, are there any very old species or old living trees that have a very long lifespan here? And yes, there are. The leadwood tree, Anna Marie, is probably going to be one of the longest living trees in this area. It can stand for will grow for thousands of years, and even once it's died, stand for hundreds more years thereafter, because of the incredibly dense wood that's basically impenetrable to any of the insects. I'm not sure how old your redwood trees live for, Anna Marie, so that'll be interesting to know. But there are certainly some very slow growing, long living trees out here. Not nearly as large as your redwood trees, which are incredibly large. I'd love to go for a walk through a redwood forest one day. And I wonder what other other trees are the longest living ones out here? I can't think of any off the top of my head. Baobab trees, which occur further north of us, are apparently also very long-lived trees into their thousands of years. So we're just arriving at another waterhole, and it'll be interesting to see if the treehouse waterhole got a little bit more water than the Buffalofoot waterhole, which appears to be the case. Needing to turn over a crappy radio there. So certainly a little bit more water. There's a terrapin bobbling about in the biggest pond there. And this will at least provide the buffalo and elephants, rhino and water with an area to wallow, and a few animals will also drink from these little muddy puddles for the few days that they last. But I'm guessing, unless we get more rain, this would have dissipated within 3 or 4 days. Christopher in Arizona, and you'd like to know what happens to the animals that live in burrows when it rains. Well, like he says, some of them will drown, some of them will be unlucky, and others will come out of their burrow and then just have to do some housekeeping thereafter. A lot of the animals are very, very clever though, Chris, and can often sense the rain coming before we can, and therefore they'll put up whatever defense is possible in their little burrows, but there will be some casualties, that's for certain. My plan is to now head further west in the hope that we're going to get close enough to the Arathusa and Sibambili guides to work out what's happening across there. We can traverse 2 different properties, and one is Djuma, one is Arathusa, and they operate on different radio frequencies, so there could have been some action across there, and it's going to be worth heading across just to make sure we haven't missed out on any action across there. I'm interested to find out if they've had any luck locating the Inkahuma Pride of Lion, which were across on their side yesterday. It's all incredibly complicated, the traversing. So even though we can traverse Arathusa, we can't traverse all the places that Arathusa can traverse, if that makes any sense. And the same goes here at Djuma. We are based on Djuma, but do not have access to the same land that the Djuma guides have access to. They've got far greater amounts of land than us. So it's important to remember that every now and then we clarify the complications of traversing, and that it's not as simple as one would expect it to be. And that's just important to know for people like Zelda who are planning a trip out here. Don't base your thoughts on what we do here daily, because basically if you come out here as a paying guest, you are going to get access, regardless of which camp you go to, you are going to get access to more land than we have access to. So that's important to remember. Also important to remember that if you go to one certain lodge nearby, you may not be able to come onto Djuma, for example, or onto Arathusa. So it's not a free-for-all, only for the animals. Well, Safari, thank you very much for providing us with an incredibly interesting fact on the oldest living redwood tree, which is 2,000 and something years old. Phenomenal. I wonder how they worked that out. That also is a feat in itself. So thank you though for that really interesting fact. It would be wonderful if anybody has some stats on the oldest living leadwood tree ever recorded, and then we'll have a good idea of who lives for longer, the redwood or the leadwood. We have just turned onto Shibam Road, which means gun road. A Shibam is a gun, but maybe it should have been called Mangwa Road for today, because we have just found some mangwa, which is a zebra in the local language, Shangaan or Shitsonga. Chagra calling in the background. And it's interesting, I can't remember who asked the question earlier about zebra and that we don't see them too often, but there seems to be a lot of zebra around today, even ones we didn't see, but tracks I saw. The zebra are enjoying the Sabi sands at this time of the year, which is wonderful. Tana in Oklahoma, you've stumped me. I have no idea how many stripes are on a zebra's body, but if you would like, you can take a screenshot and attempt to count and let us know. What I can assure you though is if you take screenshots of two different zebras, you will end up with different amounts of stripes, because each zebra has different stripes, as does each leopard have different rosettes or spots. But you may find if you count enough zebra stripes, you may get to kind of average amounts. The problem you're going to face though, Tana, is that it can be quite confusing and hypnotizing. Where does one stripe start and when does it finish? So good luck, and I wish you all the best in trying to ascertain the amount of stripes on a zebra. Well, the bird song really is fantastic this morning. They're probably rejoicing the fact that the flying reproductive termites are out and about, along with a lot of other insects. Just seen a dung beetle go flying past. They're going to have a surge in populations now as well. The flies are also out in abundance. One's busy crawling on my forehead as we speak. I'm trying to embrace the moments and become one with the fly, rather than trying to chase it off. So I'm just letting it do its thing here. And if you spend enough time doing this, you can teach your body not to get the awkward shivers. There, oh, no, another one flew off, but my friend is still here. His name is Frederick. We've already become very close, Frederick the fly. And sometimes we can have many flies on our face, 5 or 10. And as they move along, it can short-circuit your nervous system and give you a bit of a shiver. But I'm trying to train myself to prevent that happening. Yeah, I'm becoming friends with flies. It's desperate out here. But you've got to make do with everything you can get. It's just the mosquitoes that I will not tolerate. Apologies if I pronounced your name incorrectly. It's a little bit of a tricky one. And yes, we are expecting more rain. When, I don't know, but I'm sure rain will fall again at some stage. Possibly a little bit later on today, a bit of light drizzle. I don't speak to any weathermen. So I'm not too interested in forecasts. I just wait until whatever happens, happens. That's the way I operate. So I'm not too fussed with forecasts, and therefore cannot help you with any official forecasts, which to be honest are often wrong. So not too sure, but rain will fall again. When, I'm not too sure. Now, Safari Dean, I really do hope that your dream comes true. And let me know to come out to Djuma and also have one or two. That sounds like great fun. I can't express how much we would like to meet you guys and get to know you, because you kind of get to know us a lot better. We understand that effectively spending more time with us than us with you. We don't get to see you every day, and we don't even know what most of you look like. So, well, how old are you in your gender a lot of the time? So, even though we spend a lot of time with you, there's kind of massive chunks missing out of the puzzle here. And it would be wonderful to meet as many of you as possible in the future. So, Safari Dean and all of you, please try your best to get out here if in any way possible. Like I said, I'd be more than happy to help try and coordinate your safari and make it all come together and be a great success, which is obviously fundamental. A lot of you will be traveling huge distances out here, and we want to make sure that we don't skip a beat when planning your itinerary. So, like I said, Safari Dean, make it happen, and if I can help in any way, let me know. That is one thing that we can't share with you, and that is the experience of the sundowners, which are great moments on safari. They can be quite tricky though, because at some camps where I've worked in the past, they've become so focused on the sundowners and the snacks at the sundowners and the drinks at the sundowners that you kind of lose track of the fact that people are here for a safari, not for a party or a cocktail, snacks in the bush. And as much as I understand that it's enjoyable to have steamed prawns out of a bamboo steamer in the middle of the bush with your fancy cocktail, a few lodges may be losing focus a little bit as to why people are actually coming out here. Although certain people go to those specific lodges for those specific luxuries. So it all depends on what you're looking for, and obviously everyone's entitled to enjoy various things in life, but in some situations, like I said, sundowners can almost become a hindrance, because as the sun is setting, you got that golden, beautiful light. It's a great time to take photos or simply look at an animal. And it's also often a time when animals are waking up and being their most active. And for me, it's sometimes counterproductive to be sitting there drinking while you could be actually enjoying some wonderful sightings of animals. So it requires careful planning, and sometimes you have sundowners in the dark, so they're more like moon uppers or stargazers. Just a little something to think about that we don't have to contend with here on Safari Life, because we're not forced to stop. And when you guys are off on another vehicle, we can jump off quickly, stretch our legs, which is something that I hugely recommend when on safari. And most guys actually don't get their guests on and off the vehicle enough, because by the end of a 3 or 4 hour period being stuck in one position, you can seize up and become a little bit lethargic and tired if you don't get your blood pumping. Interesting, you can actually get rocked to sleep as the vehicles gently meander through these roads. And it's not uncommon for guests to fall asleep on your vehicles. Okay, over to Jamie.
Now, your current perspective from where you are sitting now, watching through the camera lens, as shown to you by Andrew, is exactly where that buffalo was killed and eaten by the lions just 2 days ago. The open, shady patch underneath a weeping wattle tree. And what's extraordinary about this kill site is that while we're looking around here, there's basically nothing left. The lions, the hyenas, the vultures, they have cleaned it out almost completely. All that's left is a slightly scuffed dead patch from where the lions were lying and where they were feeding on the buffalo carcass. There's not even a smell. Andrew and I were just discussing it because I was asking him how it smells to be where the buffalo was lying, and he said he can't smell anything. There's a bit of blood left over on the floor, but difficult for them to consume that, and that's where things like land snails, flies will all come into play in helping clear us away and stop disease from spreading. A little bit of the stomach content still, and what's fascinating about this, so this was, for those of you who were watching, this was where the lions pulled the stomach contents out and then covered them with grass. They've now been uncovered, and I'm pretty sure a lot of that uncovering has been done by the insects that you're looking at the moment. So for dung beetles, they're not going to differentiate between fresh dung that's come out of the rear end and fresh dung that's come out of the stomach contents of a carcass. Everything works for them. This is one of the many species of dung beetle, currently looking to roll himself a nice dung ball, which he'll then use to attract a mate. They will head off together and dig down into the soil and then lay their eggs inside that dung ball, and it will provide the perfect nutrients for their growing youngsters. Awesome to see. And then that's pretty much it. There's the odd scattered bone around us while we look here. Some ribs, bits of shoulder blade, but even then the legs are gone, the big bones are gone, the vertebrae have gone. All that we're seeing is 1 or 2 ribs that the hyenas have chomped upon. It's fascinating, it's totally fascinating. You can see where the ridges have been gnawed on by hungry hyenas. And as a flat bone, they generally ignore the different, or the nutrients within the ribs. That's why we so often find rib bones around a carcass like this. The rest of them, the big leg bones, all of that would have been dragged off and crunched somewhere else. I don't see any others around here. But if you remember, for those of you who were watching, when we were sitting with this lion carcass the other day, I mentioned that there was a hornbill nest. And what I want to see if we can do, and I don't know if it's going to work, obviously I don't want to keep the male hornbill away from feeding his chicks, but I want to at least show you where it is without getting too close and without stressing them out. So while we were sitting with the flat lions the other afternoon, or while they were flat, which wasn't all that often, I was sitting watching the male hornbill come and feed his chicks. Now, I've just seen him, as we arrived here, he flew away. He was obviously caught something to feed his chicks, and he's gone off in search of more. So I showed Andrew where the nest was earlier. It's in the hole within this tree. There, it's there at the junction. We can actually probably, since he's not here and he's not around, we can probably go a little bit closer and just have a look at it from a different perspective. This is what I couldn't do the other day because, you know, this whole area was one big pile of lions. We can now. I'm just looking around really carefully to make sure that he's not trying to come and approach the nest. But there we go. We've got a perspective of the entrance site, and you can even see some of the debris around it.
I can see something in there.
Can you see something in there? Little chicks moving. Yeah, I think we'll move backwards a little bit.
Let's get a quick shot and then come back.
Yeah, quick shot, and then we'll move back. We don't want to disturb them in any way. But that is the hornbill nest. That's where his chicks are hidden. You can see how packed around the edges with mud it is. Cool. Okay. You don't want to spend too much time there. You can see where all of his droppings from the chicks are. They've expelled those out of that hole. How cool is that though? That's epic. Let's move back over there so that we don't disturb them. We give them some space, and we give the male some space when he decides to come back with some food. Now, when I was sitting all the way over here, I could actually hear the chicks. Every time Dad came to feed them, I could hear them cheeping and begging and making a big fuss. So that's how loud they are. We move back a nice distance to about here, and we just wait and see. I'm not going to wait for too long. I don't want to be in any way disruptive to his feeding processes. Where are you, Mr. Hornbill? We've got babies to feed. So essentially, now I would say that those fledglings are at the stage, or those chicks are at the stage where the female is still in there as well. And that might have been what we saw moving. So with hornbills, when they first lay their eggs, or when they first make their nest, the female hides in there and they block up the sides of the nest with mud, as you could see on the left and the right. And she loses her flight feathers and then lays her eggs, and she basically holds herself up in there, and they're entirely reliant on the male to come and bring them food. But it doesn't look like he's going to come, and I obviously don't want to keep him away from feeding his hungry chicks. Just one last thing to show you, actually two last things to show you. The snails that we were talking about earlier, have a look at this. This was found outside an ant's nest. Here's the open hollow, and there's the little cap that was sitting over, the little foot that sits over the entrance. How cool is that? I can't really hold it without it disappearing in. Try and get some light. Fascinating. One last thing to show you before we move on. And this is really I don't know what's happened here. I don't know if maybe the kingfisher flew into maybe a tree or something, but we've actually got a dead woodlands kingfisher. So for those of you, it's a little bit decomposed. So for those of you uncomfortable with views of corpses or decomposition, maybe just look away for a minute or two. But it is an interesting sight. It's partially eaten by ants. As to how it died, I honestly don't know. But you can see the brilliant blues and blacks of the feathers. Awesome, awesome sighting. Shame. I wonder what happened to you, mister. But already starting to be fed on. Look at those feathers. That slight iridescence that adds to the blue and the shine. Absolutely stunning. Beautiful. Alright, well I'm going to move out of the area because I don't want to disturb the male, and I haven't seen him since we arrived, and he's usually back sort of every 5 minutes or so. And while I do that, let's go back and get an update from Scott.
Interesting stuff there. A pity the hornbill didn't come back. It's one of my favorite things, doing a stakeout with the hornbills and watching them deliver a tasty morsel to either their loved one or their babies. I guess they're both loved ones. And interesting about that woodlands kingfisher, I wonder what happened to it. It's quite nice driving with the door open. It's like aircon for your feet. That's what I'm doing now, even though it's got incredibly hot. The woodlands kingfisher, I wonder what happened there. Interesting, maybe just the cold weather. It was an old individual possibly. Couldn't take the storm last night. What's interesting is Jamie and Steph aren't too far from us over there, off to the left. As well as Andrew on camera, the three of them. Hello Jamie! You would have heard that. Unless they're having too much fun working out what happened to that woodlands kingfisher. Investigating that crime scene. Oh, she says hello back. Great, she heard me. That's good. And it's a pity we can't do the same thing with Karula! Karula! That's the leopard. I'm guessing we're not going to get a response from her though. But we may find her. Who knows? This is an area where she does like to move. So maybe we will get lucky. It's not over yet. LA. You'd like to know if there are any plans in place with regards to the invasive species in this reserve, and to be honest, I'm not too sure. It's possible though that every now and then they will do invasive species controls, but I guess it's up to the various landowners, and not only them but also the Sabi Sands as a whole. I know along the river, along the Sand River and the Sabi River, they may try and more effectively police alien plants, because those major rivers are great transporters of alien and invasive species. But sadly, I don't know too much about the finer details, and it's not really my business. The inner workings of all these properties are up to the respective landowners, and I think it's best to just leave them alone to do whatever they feel fits. But we can try and find out for you. It will be useful to know what measures are taken. But as far as I'm aware, not too many, because there are a few invasive species that grow here, and I've never seen anyone trying to get rid of them. And obviously, I mean, the poisons and everything involved with regarding getting rid of any of these plants may be actually more detrimental than the alien species themselves. We don't have anything completely overwhelming any given species that I can see here, and most of the indigenous species are the ones that are flourishing. So it's not like we're getting swamped by any one plant that's causing a massive problem in the ecosystem, or at least not that I'm aware of. Therefore, I don't think there's huge need for any intervention. Sometimes, like I said, you can probably cause more harm than good in trying to get rid of the invasive species, but a lot of the time, once they're here, are here to stay. Welcome to Ingwe Alley, the little road we've just turned onto. And Ingwe is a leopard in the local language. And Wiem, one of the cameramen, and myself have named this road. It hasn't really caught on other than with some of the Safari Live crew. It's not an official road yet on the map, nor is the name official, but happy memories of finding a young male leopard called Djuma, son of Karula, who we were trying to call out of her hiding place earlier. He used to hang around a lot in this area, and it's the huge benefits of having a young leopard on your property. They tend to stick to, at the stage where they've been booted out of home, but they're kind of still allowed in their mother's area, but she just doesn't want them to lurk around following her, eating all of her food, because she needs to start focusing on raising the next litter. So they tend to find a little area where they like to camp out, and this is where Djuma did it. Actually, interestingly enough, there's a happy memory right here, and we had tracks of Djuma coming towards where we are here, but I'm just going to walk down here to show you. There's a bit of a drop into a riverbed. So you can see I'm disappearing now down, and I had tracked the leopard up into this area and found his tracks coming up this very steep bank. And rather than following on foot, I didn't have time to do that. I jumped into the vehicle and drove around here, and we found the leopard lying right there where I was walking. So I was just below him on foot, and we found him literally like 2 minutes before the end of the sunset safari. The squirrel that you can hear shouting now, chicka 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 chicka, is probably alarm calling at me. Unless, of course, we've flushed a leopard. There goes the squirrel again. If you can see them, it can be quite useful, because often are facing in the direction of whatever they're shouting at. Let's just carry on driving slowly and see if we can't see anything. I can't see the squirrel very easily, and I am fairly certain that it was alarm calling due to me. I'm a vicious predator, and that's why it makes perfect sense that the squirrel is terrified. Shame, squirrel, don't worry. I'll leave you alone. I'll let you live another day. And interestingly enough, the first day that we actually opened up this road, there was always this two-track that we're following, not as well worn as it is now, but you could kind of make your way along this little riverbed that flows to our right-hand side. You can't see it from here, but there is a little riverbed there. But you'd get to a point where you couldn't go any further. There was quite a few logs and trees fallen down, and once we moved those logs out of the way, we could then go all the way through to the next road, which is called Twin Dams Road. And it was the first day that we actually opened everything up, and we had searched it 3 or 4 times. We did have tracks of Kunyuma in the area, and again it was like 15 minutes before the end of the sunset safari, and I wasn't too sure what to do, and we had already checked this road quite a few times, so I certainly wasn't planning on checking it again. And I think we were actually live when I asked VM what to do. I was out of suggestions, and I said, VM, what do you reckon? And he says, let's go and do Ingwe Alley one last time. And we were approaching it from Twin Dams towards where we are now, so going in the opposite direction to where we're going. And after being on the road for about 50 meters, there he was, up in a marula tree, eating a duiker. Jackpots. We continued to view him the next day. Elephants came through that scene, chased him off. It was absolutely awesome. I'll show you the tree that he was in now. We still see him occasionally. It's been quite a while since we did last see him. And he had a brother called Quarantine. And they were the saviors for our leopard sightings back then. We saw those 2 leopards more than any other leopards from November 2014 until probably a quarter of the way or midway through 2015. Up over here on that main horizontal branch on the left there that Tebs is zooming into is exactly where he was perched, right there, slap in the center of your screen. That's where him and the duiker were when we saw him. Well, there's just 5 minutes left, and what will happen in those 5 minutes, I don't know. Neither does anyone really. If anyone does know though, please let us know, and please come here. We'll put you up in a wonderful spot. Here we'll look after you and pamper you, because anyone that can read into the future of this wilderness would be hugely useful. I'm not sure who's just said this, but somebody's suggesting that we should go and pick Jamie up, and that's after she rescued me after the Nkuhuma Pride killed that buffalo while I was taking a run around the quarantine clearings. And I'll get your name eventually. Okay, I'm not going to get your name today, but thank you very much. It was a good suggestion. We're going to send you across to Jamie.
We're slowly making our way back along quarantine and heading back home at the end of a wonderful sunrise morning. And just to clarify for David Linru, you're wondering why we're not in a car and where my car might be. And Rusty's absolutely fine, it's completely perfect. It's just that we decided we wanted to, after the rain and after the wind that was blowing, we wanted to go and see what wonderful creepy crawlies decided to come out and show themselves. And I'm sure you can all agree, the fact that we basically went from one side of quarantine to the other and experienced sorry, I'm giggling at Andrew and his antenna. It makes it bushwalk, or is what makes bushwalk as much fun as it is. Now Andrew does the most incredible camera work. I'm chuckling at him, but he's got to navigate the same places I've got to navigate with an incredibly heavy backpack on, hold the camera steady, and have an antenna that sticks up about, there you go, you can have a look and see. And he's got to duck and dive and still manage to focus on what he's filming. So I'm sure you'll all agree when I pass on my absolute thanks to Andrew for the incredible shots that he managed to bring you this morning. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you've enjoyed it. Thank you for your questions and thank you for all of the information as we listen to the singing woodlands kingfishers up above us. It has been an extraordinary morning, and getting out and about on foot is one of the best ways to experience and to find all of the best parts of the little aspects of the life that we get to observe around us. I hope that you have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world, and we will catch up with you with the sunset safari this afternoon. Cheers, guys.
So, Pete, finally, I got your name, and yes, it's a great suggestion, and I'm going to use it. I should have thought of it myself, so thank you for your assistance there. And we are not too far away, so we should gain sight of the intrepid foot patrol. And oh, I've seen them. And I'm going to pick up Jamie and leave Andrew and Steph to walk home, because they didn't save my life. It was only Jamie that did. It will also be difficult to get Andrew onto the vehicle with that big backpack, and he also does need some exercise, Andrew. Here they are. Steph has disappeared like a ghost into the darkness. And if you look carefully, you may see him peeking out from behind that marilla tree there. There he is. Jamie, we've come to give you the lift that I owe you for saving my life the other day. Andrew, you can walk. You need the exercise. Okay, you can sit on the bonnet then.
Cool. Alright, so we're going to hop on.
And everyone, it's been so much fun having you with us on Safari Live this morning. I'm sure you're all enjoying a rare glimpse of one of our cameramen. Thank you so much for all your contributions. Really looking forward to this afternoon safari. Brent will be back, so he may be feeling fit enough to take a drive. He may not. Time will tell. Interesting, the inner workings of the backpack that gets you the foot patrol. So I hope you enjoyed that. And well done, Kirsty and Nix in the final control. We will see you all next time. Toodle-doo.